Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to each and every one of you. Before we start tonight, I just want to take a moment with each and every one of you to share in this beautiful moment and take a few seconds to ground ourselves, to bring us into the present moment, and to really feel and understand why we are here tonight. So if I could ask everybody to please just relax, close your eyes, and just let me give you a couple of instructions just to ground us and be in this moment. So everyone, please shut your eyes, take a deep breath in, and let it out. Now I'm going to ask you to slowly take a deep breath in on a count of 4, and I'm going to ask you to hold your breath for a count of 4, and then I'm going to ask you to let your breath out for a count of 4. Breathing in through the nose, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open your eyes, stretch, reach for the sky, grab all the light and bring it down into your soul, deep inside of you. And be here, be with us, share with us, love with us. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is such a extraordinary space for us to be in here tonight. This is season 4. Do you believe it? Season number 4 of the Ultimate Book Reading. We are now the last Wednesday in November. Last Wednesday in November. We are gathered here tonight to share with one another of what we've been experiencing for all those who joined us since season 1 up to this point as well. I thank each and everyone for sharing this time with us. This is such a remarkable community, and I must say that I cannot make it on Sunday mornings because I attend church at the same time, but I had the great privilege to review every single Sunday or Monday when I get the chance to review it, to see all of you still showing up, going through this journey. And I'm so delighted that I'm part of this because my love grows each and every time I'm with you all the time. So I want to ask all of you, are you ready to get started? Are you ready to have an extraordinary time? So what I would like for everyone to do here is I want you to give a big shout out, a big cheer, waving those arms around for the 2 fabulous people that made this possible for each and every one of us tonight. That's Amy Hardison and Alan Thompson. 2 extraordinary people that started a journey for each and every one of us 3, 4 years ago. Where this thing is worldwide, absolutely worldwide, taking us down the road to help us understand how to be our true beings. And we also can't forget about the man who made this all possible, the ultimate coach himself, Mr. Steve Hardison, who shared with us his extraordinary journey from the moment he was born to this day on how to be a terrific human being, how to show up for yourself, to love yourself, and take all of that and share it with the world, one person at a time, moment by moment by moment. Thank you all again for being here. Tonight, we're going to be reading chapter number 22, titled The Office. And guess what, folks? We got a great great surprise for you. We got two fabulous readers here tonight that's going to be sharing their readings with you. The fabulous coach, Ms. Bina Bandeo, and our fabulous Team Tuck member, Carrie Rickenbaugh. Ladies, beautiful souls. Thank you for showing up here tonight and giving us a part of you. Thank you so much. And we cannot wait to hear what you had to share for us. So let's just do something here. I would like for each and every one of you, please go into chat and let me know where you are in this world. Be proud of where you're at. Shh. Chat it up. Let me know where you're at. Utah. Ooh, what is this place? I never had Guadalajara, Ecuador. Welcome. Wisconsin, Utah. What was it? My second floor office, Earth. Awesome. Burlington, Iowa. Dublin, California. Florida. I'm from Middle Pennsylvania. Woo! I'm there with all of you. So thank you for all joining. So I want to ask another question. Would you mind please putting in the chat and letting everybody know, why are you here tonight in this moment? Why are you here? Love, to read. All right, to read. All right. Being, to love you all up. Oh man, you get your after my own heart, to be with all of you, to be part of the connection, be part of a great community, to grow together, grow my own being with all of you. How outstanding. This is such an extraordinary journey that I cannot express in the words that are coming from my heart what I'm experiencing. Every time I pick up this book, every time I read this book, every time I share stories within this community, every time I hear the fabulous stories, how it changed your lives. So I want to keep that going for tonight. I want this to continue the journey about you. So I ask each and every one of you tonight, as we're going through all this together, as we're learning, as we're hearing, as we're feeling, as we're experiencing this, just remember, when you're listening about you. When you're speaking about you. And when you're reading about you. So take this time while you're here. Learn how to grow even more than you grew yesterday, but not as much as you will go to grow tomorrow. We'll save that for tomorrow. Be here. Be with us. And most importantly, please, please continue to love one another and love yourself. And with that being said, welcome again. And now I turn it over to our beautiful Farid to take us into tonight's book reading journey. Thank you.
With darling Ken, I think they prefer to hear the way you talk and you pump them up better than I could. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. This is like another sanctuary for me. Like it's literally being in a church in the comfort of my own home and be here and share it with you phenomenal people. And the book reading, again, I always say this is like literally reading this holy book in this holy space. We're all growing in this, and I can see all of us when we come repeatedly how much more we're getting out of this and how fantastic it is that of course we're grateful to our Amy Hardison, of course we're grateful to our Alan D. Thompson, and I'm ever so grateful for Eric Lapham to create this because I always believe you give credit when the credit is due. And if it wasn't for Eric, we would have not been sitting here reading this book, learning and growing so much from it. And it's amazing that tonight we have the two wonderful people, as you can mention, our darling Carrie Rickbog is one of our girls behind the scene, and the daughter I've never had, my precious peanut bender, I love and adore, and she's 27 years, my child, I should say, and it's dangerous when you leave the two of us together. So now I have to sit and watch her being really proper for a change. I don't know how she can do it, but it's brilliant. How fantastic to be here and have this chapter 22nd, The Office, read with these phenomenal people for us. Let's share and grow. Let's let it be just about ourselves. Please, I beg of you, only share about yourself. Once you start sharing about somebody else and acknowledging somebody else, then I will have to politely come and ask you not to do that. So let's be respectful of that. And it's a place of growth, not a place of advertising. So let's keep that in mind. And I'd love to, anybody a first timer here that would like to read the front 2-page and the back page. Do we have a first timer here at all? Or everyone's been here before? Oh, so we all have been here. Now, can I just volunteer and choose? I'd love to ask our beautiful Katina, would you like to read the back of the book, sweetheart? Or did I get you in a bad time? Would you like to read, my love?
Sure, I will
Sure.
read.
So you read the back of the books, and then the front of the book, before you begin. How about Kelly Lawrence? I don't see her there, but oh, right. No, I don't. Would you like to read the first 2 pages, Kelly? All right. I don't get response. How about Wendy? Yeah, brilliant. So let's, Katina, have you two read the back of the book. And then immediately, Wendy, if you would please go ahead and read the before you begin. And then my precious girls, whoever reads the first one, Carrie or Bina, then the minute they're done with that, just go right ahead and I'll let you guys, however you've shared it, let's read that and let's have a great time. How's that? Is that okay? Okay. So, Katina, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you.
All right, my love, go ahead. It's yours.
Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I am interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you. Be blessed. Be you. Steve Hardison.
You are muted. Wendy, you're muted.
There we go. I'm trying to unmute. I'm not very Zoom savvy. Okay, now I have to go off camera to read this.
No problem.
Just bear with me. Okay. I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So, with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. Excuse me. It's a book about being. It's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you, Steve Hardison.
Do I just
Lady.
go straight?
Oh, wait, yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Sorry. I was new to all this whole thing, okay? Gotta give me a little bit of cues.
That's all right, sweetheart.
Chapter 22, The Office. For a couple of years, Steve has been coaching in his dining room table. It worked. By 8 a.m., the kids had left for school, and Abby has consorsed in her office. It was private enough, but not ideal. One day in the late 1993, Steve was puttering around his property and stepped into the storage room by the west end of his house. The kids' bicycles stood cluttered, propped on their kickstand like a domino, tempting fate. The lawnmower was parked on to their side, flecked with grass bits. Tools were shattered on the workbench. It smelled like gasoline and paint. Steve saw possibilities. In a few months, he helped Gary Diaz and a client and general contractor, glass panel doors replaced with heavy utility doors, lush cherry cabinetry displaced plywood, storing shelves. A couch and a leather chair sat in the bicycle where the bicycles and lawnmowers had been. The transformation was expensive. How are our papos? When Steve was young, he was inventive, wearing suits, flying around the world doing business. It was common enough today if you substitute business casuals for suits. It wasn't so in 1965. In 2001, Steve still loves wearing suits, but not to work. He often walks into a coaching session wearing shorts and flip-flops or maybe loafers. One of the perks of living in Arizona is that such an attire is weather appropriate year-round. When he wants to gussy up for a session, he dons long pants and one of his 60 pairs of shoes. I want 60 pairs of shoes. Sorry, I had to reread that again. He has one of his 60 pairs of shoes. Perhaps his favorite, patent leather Panton leather magenta Oxford. I don't know about you guys. I want some leather shoes now. I gotta get some magenta ones here. He does not fly around the world to coach. His clients fly or drive to him, no exceptions. Lisa Haley, an executive coach and former president of the board of Colorado chapter of International Coaching Federation, says Steve, no travel mandate. That is a really tough transition for most coaches to ever make. A beginning coach that gets a big shot CEO as a client typically thinks, I have to make it easy for him. I have to go to his office. After all, he is paying me a lot of money. I better be available for him at all times. Most coaches operates that way. I've operated that way. What Hardison models for us is really, really important. He does not go to his clients. He's not upend his life. He loves, respects, serves his clients, and he has his boundaries. Why is Steve so abundant about his clients traveling to him? There are so many reasons. Steve had enough travel during his Riddell years to last him for a lifetime. Steve loves his current commute, even though with the strong, heavy wind or heavy traffic, crickets on the sidewalk, leaves to step over, it is no more than a minute at most. His dovetails to his other reason, Yayati Desai, a personal coach based in India, observes, he doesn't travel because he loves Amy. He wants to spend more time with her, Yayati muses. Like, wow, who does that? He also notes, I'm going from this city to that city. I'm speaking to 1,000 people here and 2,000 people there to generate future clients. He doesn't need that kind of marketing. He always has lots of clients of this fantastic caliber. There are other reasons. Steve wants clients to have skin in their game. The greater commitment, the greater results. Hardison charges a lot for his coaching. For some clients, that creates a your firstborn kind of commitment. For some clients, any fee at that price would be immaterial, but arrogant, your schedule to regularly be in the Hardison's office requires costly commitment. Norma Bachura, I think I'm saying that correctly. And if I'm not, I apologize. The doctor living in Southern California had a 10-hour agreement with Steve. She relates, by the end of the 5th session, I have changed so much that I couldn't have imagined not being with him for 1 year. I wonder what I would get if I extended my coaching. Of course, I hesitated, partly because of the amount of money, but also because of the sessions requires a whole day of travel. I made the decision to continue with coaching. Every time we met, I personally had breakthroughs and learned so much about human nature. He's changed my life drastically and literally drastically. I started teaching what I learned during my coaching sessions at my church. At first, I only had 2 or 3 students, but they recruited others. I ended up teaching 10 people for 8 months. They changed drastically as I just copied Steve. Many coaches offer coaching via Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, and other video conferencing. It would be so much easier, so much more convenient. No lines at the airport security, no hours in the sky, but it wouldn't be the same. Steve knows this. So does his clients. One potential client from Argentina asked Steve if he would be willing to coach her through Skype. His response immediately, no. So was hers. She prompted, wired money, and she knew she had found the coach she was looking for. Preparation. Steve's office is not simply a meeting where a place where a coach meets client B. Where Coach A needs Coach B, client B, or a private Starbucks. It's a sacred place. succulently stated the word sacred means to take something common use and dedicate it to a sacred use. At all levels and in all domains, sacred does not just happen, it's intentional. In the Hebrew Bible, God commands the Israelite people to wash their clothes and to refrain from sexual relations for 3 days prior to the sinning experience. They do not casually waltz into the presence of God. He demanded preparation. In secular terms, preparation precedes power. In Charles Lexberg, but preparation does not precede power, it creates power. Both Steve and his clients intentionally prepare for their time together, creating the power for their sessions before stepping into his office. In being interviewed for his book, Stephen McGee said, "Write about Hardison rakes the carpet between. Have you heard of that? Who does that? Perhaps the same person who brushes his carpet when he was 14. But why does he do it? The office has pearl gray shag carpet. Hardison has a soft spot for anything that reminds him of 1970s. Before his client enters, Steve himself rakes the carpet, starting from the far corner and walking backwards towards the door. The effect is renewal. Each client steps into a fresh space, Stephen McGee says. Anytime I walk into that office, mine were the first footsteps on that freshly raked carpet. I don't even think I realized it at first. I just knew it was there, sometimes something different going on, like I'm breaking ground here. Without fail, when a client arrives, the client arrives with his or her flag. Many clients start scanning for their flags while they're still in the freeway, approaching the exit that will take them to Steve's house. When they see their flag, it gets a jolt of bliss. They are royals in residence, at least for the next 2 hours. There are 2 flagpoles at Steve's house, one by the front entrance and one in the backyard near his office. Each client has a flag. It may be a flag of a university, state, or country. It may have a logo of his business or something he loves, or something that characterizes the client. It may represent the client's vision or the essence of his or her, or the essence of the work he or her is doing with Steve. There are flags of Italy, India, and Ireland, and there are flags of Florida, Texas, and Hawaii. There are flags with unicorns and flags with hearts. There are flags with golf balls, horses, and doves. There are all custom-made flags designed by clients. When a long-term client completes their coaching agreement, Steve and the client holds a sacred ceremony. They lower the flag, sign and date it with a marker, and carefully fold it. Steve then gives the flag to the client. Everyone who knows anything about Steve knows about the flags. Even clients who show up for a 2-hour Be With session have a flag. At the end of the Be With session, Amy takes a picture of Steve and the client standing beneath the flag. If Amy isn't home, Steve recruits his neighbor to be the photographer. That's important. The client is that important. Liz Burritix relates, I'm arriving at his house and I had 2 flags flying for me, a Canadian flag and a flag 582 flag. I shared with him that the 528 hertz is the frequency of love. It's the heart of my life's work. A coaching client thrives by doing more than what they love. Also, I am working with the Global 528 project. That is what I love. That is about a loved-based business worldwide. It's my biggest vision. What is the impact of seeing the flag over her country and the flag of her passion? Lisa says, I've never felt so aligned like him. I feel like he has my back in ways I've never experienced. and he's holding me to my highest in the ways no one ever has.
Steve's preparation is not solely eternal. Flying flags, raking carpet, getting the office at the right temperature, and setting out snacks and fruit. He prepares internally. Lisa Hale shares what she learned from Steve and how she adapted it into her coaching. Steve prepares himself to be 100% present with his clients. If I was going to say the one thing that has impacted me the most about Steve Hardison, it is that he has spent 4 hours every day preparing for his clients. His preparation looks like spending time with his wife. It looks like exercise. It looks like eating well. It looks like meditation and writing and journaling. It looks like deeply immersing himself in a book, not just reading, but studying to the point of absorption. And he does that with his clients too. From the moment I got that, I began to cultivate that practice. I record my sessions with my clients and even my prospects. I keep my recordings completely private. I listen to them and I take notes and I listen for the things I didn't hear the first time around. I listen to the patterns and then I'll listen again for the content. When we meet again, I'm really prepared. I'm meditating. I'm up early and exercising and journaling and clearing my head and clearing my mind and coming to a place of presence and service. I do that because I learned from Steve Hardison the value of being 100% present and the importance of preparation. It has made me an extraordinary coach and, frankly, an extraordinarily well-paid one. The preparation is mutual. Steve's clients have invested significant funds for the opportunity of sitting in his office with him. They have arranged their lives and their schedules to be there, sometimes flying across the country, sometimes flying from other countries, some flying to Phoenix a day or two before their session to prepare, and some stay a few hours or a few days afterwards to digest their experience. Even if they are just driving across the valley, too much is at stake to just show up. Steve Chandler says, I used to be at Hardison's house 30 minutes before our sessions. He wanted to make sure he wasn't late. Jason Jaggard says, getting ready to work with Steve Hardison is like preparing myself to travel to Mecca. Getting ready to work with Steve Hardison is like preparing myself for traveling to Mecca. I set everything up. I have a special pen. I have a special notebook. There are all these things that I do to treat the process with the sacredness that it deserves. That is the preparation once you have laid down money. You don't even get in the door without a considerable upfront investment of time and effort. Jason shares his experience. I reached out to a couple people whom I really admired for coaching. We talked for a little bit and they said, we would love to work with you, but we think that you would really, really enjoy working with this guy, Steve Hardison. When I started talking to people about Hardison, I realized you say his name and it's like a hush falls over the crowd. So I went to his website and checked him out. I sent him a nice little email and said that I would like to work with him. He said, great. Then he gave me a bunch of shit to do. He sent me 2 books, not written by him, and said, I want you to read these first. And I want you to read everything on my website. And I want you to watch these 3 hours of videos. And I want you to think about what it would be like for us to work together, then get back to me. It took me a month to do all these things. And then I reached back out to him and we set up a time. Initially, I thought he was creating hoops for me to jump through to see if I really wanted it. What I didn't realize until later was that he started serving me from the second that I reached out to him. I hired him 2 months after he and I initially talked. At my first actual session, I felt like I had already been working with him for 2 months for free. There's more. Steve doesn't invite just anyone into his office. Gina Carlson says, working with Steve is to go big or go home. Ayan Levenzat put it this way. Steve Hardison is not for the faint of heart or the hopers, the witchers, the triers. He's not for the dreamers. He's not for the wannabes. When you step into that experience, you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready to take your A game and throw it the hell out the window. Because in the presence of Steve Hardison, your A game ain't going to get you up to first base. True, but as long as you come in swinging for the fence, it will be a great game. The gatekeeper. The first time someone comes to meet with Steve, he does not take them straight to his office. First, they come into his home. He offers them water. They visit for a bit. He asks a few probing questions. When they are ready, Steve says something like he recently said to Joseph Raven. Fitz, we can go into my office now. It is the most sacred and holy place on earth for me. It is a place that has no isms. It is not a place for chit-chatting. It is a place of pure creation. It is a place for healing marriages, for building companies, for creating movies and books. I ask you to respect and honor it. Is that something you can do? Jason Jaggard recalls, in my very first session, before going to his office, Steve said, Jason, I want you to understand something. Here is my religion. And he held his hand up at chest height. Then he raised his hand to head height. And here is my office. I'd never heard anyone talk like that before. He invited people into his office with total clarity and a powerful commitment. Devin Brandison was part of an elite group of coaches Steve Chandler created. Inviting associations with the British intelligence agency M16, Chandler named this group M6. During one of the weekends when the M16 had flown to Arizona, Chandler arranged a visit to the Hardisons. Brandison was excited to see Hardison in situ as a regular guy. Brandison relates. We go into the Hardisons' backyard, and Steve Chandler, who has written about Hardison in so many books and goes back years with him and is a lifetime coaching client, asks Hardison very respectfully if he can take me into the office. Hardison says, absolutely. So we go in, and Chandler shows me several things in the office and tells me stories about them. Then I look up at the bookshelf, and Hardison has my book, the book I had written and sent to him on the shelf. I'm like, holy shit. We leave the office, and two other members of our group start walking into the office. Hardison is sitting on a bench over by the wall and is in conversation with Karen Davis. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees these two heading into his office. He stops mid-conversation and makes a beeline to the door. He says, excuse me, I need you to know that this is a sacred place. I don't let just anyone go in there. They assume that because Steve Chandler and I went in, they could go in next. Hardison stops them and says, I'll allow one of you to go in at a time, but I need you to know it's a sacred place. To me, that was a small but powerful moment. A lot of people might have thought, well, these are Steve Chandler's people, so they can go in, or just this time, or I'm in the middle of this conversation. But Hardison has always said that his office is a special place. He coaches people on integrity. In a world where a lot of people are wishy-washy, it is very refreshing when someone actually means what they say. Their word creates their world. To me, that was the most powerful moment of our time there that evening. The preparation, the gatekeeping, and the work that goes on in the office yield tangible results. Most who cross the threshold of the office feel something. Brandon Green wrote, I found the office to be serene and peaceful. It definitely had a special energy to it. And I could tell, even without any additional information from Steve, that special work had happened in that room. It definitely had that feel. Kai Jordan says, I walked into his office and I was brought to tears. I could literally sense the miracles created in that room. This space was an infinite field of possibility. I have had the privilege of being with the Shanguru, an enlightened master, for 4 years. I'm very familiar with yoga practices and spiritual masters and the quality of energy. But this was a different kind of energy. I could literally feel it. It was like I was hearing the whispers of the conversation that had happened in that room with Steve. It was moving. Dr. Daniel Harner had heard about Steve mostly by reading Steve Chandler's books. He wasn't sure if he was ever going to meet him. He recognized that Hardison doesn't give speeches, make video courses, or do public appearances. The only connection Daniel had with him was through Facebook. To his surprise, one day Steve posted on Facebook that he was speaking at a church in the Phoenix area. Daniel cleared his schedule and attended. Afterwards, he went to Steve's home for a casual gathering. The highlight of the day was speaking to Steve for a few minutes. He relates, as I talked to Steve, he was totally present. Not 1% of his mind wandered. I told him that I didn't have anything specific to say or to share with him. I just wanted to express my gratitude. At the end of their conversation, Steve asked Daniel if there was anything he could do for him. Daniel hesitated to request the one thing he craved. After a few moments, he said, "The only thing that could possibly make me happier is to see and sit in your office for a few minutes." Steve considered Daniel, pondered his request, and agreed, with the caveat, "Just remember where you are when you sit in there." "I felt honored that he trusted me," said Daniel. "At the end of the day, I said to myself, this was one of the best days of my life." Gifts. The most striking thing in Steve's office are the gifts his clients have given him. These are not off-the-shelf gifts. They are unique and beautiful, but they were not chosen for their beauty. Some are prized possessions a client has given to Steve, like a Tibetan bull the Dalai Lama had given to Dr. Allison Arnold. After working with Steve, she knew it belonged in his office. All the gifts mean something. For instance, John and Jody Vere gave Steve a sculpture called Metamorphosis by Marie-Louise Bodersky. It shows a face breaking out of an older face. Bodersky's website states, "The process of shedding the skin and opening up is painful, yet also releasing. It challenges us to let go of the old and open up to the new." It is a fitting description of Steve's work. Metamorphosis sits right next to a small brass telescope, also given to Steve by Jody Vere. Steve distinguished for Jody that she habitually looked through the minimizing end of a telescope when it came to looking at her strengths, and the maximizing end when she looked at her weaknesses. She bought a telescope for herself to remind her to reverse the order, and one for Steve to thank him for the distinction. John Couture's Silent Prayer also sits in Steve's office. This sculpture has two hands pressed together in prayer in front of a face which appears to be suspended in nothingness. This is an apt gift for a coach who steps into his office with nothing and creates miracles out of the words a client speaks. On a small table next to the client couch sits a red crystal heart from Tiffany's, given to Steve from Ayanna Vincent. Steve cherishes it. It not only reminds Steve of Ayanna, it became his designated object to teach people that they are as powerful and capable as he is. It is a principle he has taught to many. Steve Chandler vividly remembers sitting in his office when Steve said, "Anything I do, you could do. If I take this glass heart and throw it at the window will break. If you pick up this glass heart and throw it at the window will break." Chandler relates, "He was holding the heart. I thought, he's going to throw it at that window right now. So I said, 'I really see that. Please put that down.' I knew he wasn't hesitant to throw it at the window if he thought I wasn't getting the point." Chandler didn't want to be responsible for the carnage. Some gifts typify a client's home, like a boomerang from a client who lives in Australia, or a feather from one of the peacocks that lives on Daniel Harner's property. Some gifts have been personally made, like the artwork of Nadine Larder and Greg Olson. Some gifts aren't in the office because they are consumable, like a favorite treat from a client's country of origin. There are so many gifts, too many to mention. They are generously given. They are definitely not expected or required. Each of these gifts is so much more than a gift. It is a piece of the client. It is a token of their work. Sometimes the work was done through soul-trembling labor, like natural childbirth. Sometimes clients stood at major crossroads. Sometimes clients needed help to reach their dreams. Sometimes they yearned for peace. Always there was transformation. There was the creation. Always Steve gave all that he had to help his clients see possibility. No wonder the office is sacred.
Well, thank you, beautiful readers. That was marvelous. What another reading, what another beautiful eye-opening. I'd love to ask right now and start coming from Katina, if there is anything that you wonderful readers that had to share and anything came up for you guys. I'd love to ask you, Katina, would you like to share? Did anything, was anything present for you that you'd like to share with us?
God, okay, so this is my first time. I know you know that, but yeah, it's my first time.
I did not know that, and I'm so glad I got you. Wow.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow, beautiful. Welcome,
Thank you.
sweetheart.
While I was listening and reading along, I think one of the things that I considered about who I'd like to be, right? Again, thinking about who I need to be, I want to be that person who can be completely present for someone and help them along, right? Like that's sort of who I've always strived to be. And so I was trying not to think about all the things in the way of me being that person for my friends or for my family. So I think that was probably one of the stronger things that I was thinking about while we were reading.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. That's great. Well, it's really exciting that you're the first timer and I got you, girlfriend. So that was lovely to have you here. Thank you, my love. Wendy, would you like to share?
Okay. So this was my first time as well. Surprise.
Oh my goodness. How did I get you guys? That's brilliant. Wow. Welcome, welcome, both of you. All of you. That's fabulous.
And look, I just was interested in just listening tonight. That was it.
Hey, we listen to you reading and enjoying you. So that's wonderful. Thank you. I'm excited. I'm tapping myself on the back that I got you, both of you. I didn't let you get away with it, but that's great. Yes. The book reading, you're welcome to come here and read and listen and enjoy and have a share, and sometimes not even just like don't want to say anything. That's also perfect. It's just a matter of a growth in this space that we have together. It's I read this book, God only knows if I say 29 times I've lied. I've done quite a bit of it, and in this very chapter was what was very present for me, that I had that years and years ago from Maya Angelou, that she said about when you invite people to your home, be careful who you invite to your home, because whatever they say, negative, sarcastic, anything that is not proper and is not loving. And she said it goes to upholstery of your furniture, it goes to the wallpaper. And I thought to myself, oh, she's exaggerating. What do you mean it goes to the upholstery of furniture? And I had quite a few experiences after that. And I realized, oh, well, perhaps maybe there is something to it. Then I read the book, this chapter, that Steve is being very picky who goes to the office. And I thought, wow, that's what Maya Angelou was talking about. That's what it is. It's a holy space in my whole home. And I am so careful now who comes to my home, who I invite. And many times people say, oh, we want to come to your home. And I said, perhaps one day. But because of the office and that chapter, I realized if I am not being picky, what energy comes to my house, nobody else is going to keep my house clean and holy. With energies, you can burn all the sages in the world that you want. They've been in and the damage has been done. So that part of being careful who comes to the house was a fabulous confirmation for me that, yep, you need to be picky. So my darling, Bina, let us know what's present for you, sweetheart. Would you like to share? You are muted. The tech.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
It
good.
said I couldn't unmute.
Oh,
It wouldn't let me unmute because whoever the host. I actually relate to this so much, and the energy that brings with it and keeping it a sacred place. A couple of months ago, I actually invited for the first time a nurse coach come into my house, and we were actually in my office, or my third floor office, which I don't know if it's like because it's on the third floor of my house. Like you basically have to go through my entire house to go up to it. And I will never do that again. Can tell you that now. Yeah, Liz knows this story a little too well on this one, but this girl, she came in and we were sitting here, and I mean, excuse the mess, but like I have a chair here and I have a chair right here so I can sit and have a conversation. So we're sitting side by side, like, you know, I'm able to sit in front of each other and have a conversation. Well, as we were talking, I don't know what, this is a free conversation, but anyways, the girl was a little cray-cray. Oh well, it's on Facebook, but that's okay. And it was like, I don't even know how to explain it, but the energy was not right. The whole situation was not okay. She brought me a gift, which I think she just felt like she needed to bring me a gift, which I ended up just kind of putting away out of my house. And it was not, I understood after that. And then I actually reread the book from The Office, and why this particular chapter resonates with me so much is because I don't think this lady really took my house as a holy sacred. I think she came in just with an agenda, or because she was trying to do something, and then she's like, oh, while I'm on my computer, she's like, can I see all the back end on how you do your business, and can I see what this is? And I was like, no, why do you want to see the back end of my business? You're here for coaching, like, what's the point? She's like, well, I thought because your computer's here. And I was like, well, you thought wrong. And then after that, like 15-20 minutes, I was like, hey, you know what, we're gonna go downstairs and have a glass of water. In other words, to get her out of my office space, to get her downstairs. But then even on the second floor, she started going through, she looking at my family photos. And finally, I think my husband picked up on my vibes, and my husband was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? The kids need to go to bed, you know, because she was here. It was an hour conversation. She was here for 3.5 hours. Yeah, I know. I'm too nice.
Well, don't be, darling. Don't be. I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, I have my boundaries, but trust me, there's a time and a place where, you know, when you're thinking you have a client, you need to serve, you need to be in presence, you know, you want to be like, she was telling me about all these personal stuff. So I didn't want to be like rude at the same time, but I never truly understood the scarcity, the sacredness of an office. Whether they come all the way up to the third floor to being in my actual office, or whether we're downstairs on my dining table and still having a conversation, or outside in my gazebo and still having a conversation. And I'm telling you, after that experience, I will never do that again. So unfortunately, I will be doing Zoom. And if anyone comes to my house, that would be, it's a blessing if you come over. Because we saged her house. I did everything after that. And I'm telling you, this girl was crazy. Like, I had to let her go. I was just like, you've been here for 3 hours. She's like, well, we have so much more to talk about. I said, well, you can pay me for another time and another place. We'll be at your house next time, because not here, you know.
Right.
And it's true. Like, the energy is just like vibrant. It was things, you know. My eldest son, he shortly after he got sick, and my husband's like, what is this? I was like, it's just the energy. He picks up on a lot of things. And yeah, I won't do that again. But I do understand how I'm a little anal like Steve Hardison. I did vacuum the floor, so it had, you know, you had your, you know, the triangles. I don't know, Dave's laughing at me, but that's just my OCD. You know, but it's true. I'm like, Dave knows me better too. But I had it where the triangles were there, and I had the whole thing. Not that I was copying the book, because to be honest with you, like, I've been in this world for less than a year, and I didn't even know half this stuff until I fully got immersed in this in January, and just lessons learned. And you can learn a lot from this, because you're right. There's a lot of, it's just, when people come into your home, and come into your space, it's a lot more sacred, and I understand why people charge way more if you're coming to someone's house.
Mhm.
Like now, if someone came into my house, there is no way I charge that lady. It will be astronomically way more. Because you're
Mhm.
not only engaging with me, right? You get met by my husband, you get met by my children. The dog will just jump all over you, right? And so it's also just, it's a blessing to be in front of my children. And I think that alone is just triples or quadruples the price, because I don't trust anybody around my kids. So
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, sweetheart. That was wonderful to know. Carrie, what have you got to share for us with us? I know this was a special chapter for you.
This really was. Part of the reason I resonated with this is because when I first read this chapter, I saw it from a little bit different perspective than I think a lot of people do. A lot of people see that this is a sacred space for Steve, and that Steve has created this secret space within his home to work. The way I read it was he created this for all of his clients to be able to come into a space like that, to be able to come into a space where there was no judgment, there was no preconceived notions, there was, it was a sacred ground that, and the carpet raking was so poignant to me because it was a brand new space each time somebody came in there. So it wasn't something where he had the same conversations with people, the same kind of strategies. Everything was, his clients could understand that they were safe in that space. And that to me was incredible, that the space wasn't just for Steve, for him to keep his peace, but it was for his clients to be able to feel that peace and that love that he has for everybody, and that he has for this work, and how much he wants people to succeed and grow and just be who they can be, and to learn how to do that. And so I loved this chapter, thinking about it in terms of him serving his clients. And that's why he had that room that he kept as sacred as he does.
Oh, I got muted again, so I'm unmuted. Tom, is that why you're doing this to me? No? Okay, cool. All these space holding, it has taught me so much, and it has given me so much more strength about being able to say yes or no. You can come in and you cannot come in, or not exactly saying you don't come in, and how much it shows me how much more I have respect for me. That takes me more into my beingness and teaching me how much more I'm getting more respect for me, and I'm becoming less from being a pleaser, or what I used to be for years and years and years, to say, this is my sacred space. So now I'm speaking up, and I think it's phenomenal. All right, let's go to share with everybody else. Dave Orton. Yes, sir. Let's hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Katina, for reading. Thank you, Wendy, for reading. The back of the book and the first pages. Great to finally see you in person, Wendy, and get to know you. I've heard about you a lot through our dear friend Carrie. All good things. All good things. All good. And Bina, oh man, I love you. And the reading was fantastic, and the sharing was even. I'm supposed to share about myself. I'm sorry. I'm going to get this back on myself. Carrie, thank you. It was fantastic too. I really appreciate it. What I wanted to share with you is that I have experience the sacredness of that office. And it is a little bit of it carries with you when you leave. So it's not only the spaces take on the energy of the people, but the people take on the energy of the spaces if they're prepared to do so. If I am prepared to do so. This week, this is the flag that Steve flew every time that I was in coming to his office when I did the chocolate chip cookie, the 10-hour agreement. He also flew it for Penny and me and my son when we came to visit a little over a year ago. And the flags that the secondary flag he put up for me was a great big smile, like one of those smiley shirts. And I really appreciated that. You know, when Penny and my son came with me, I wanted them to see the office, and Steve let them look in the office. Like he opened the door and just had them, you know, look into the office. Is that right, Penny? That's right, right? Yeah. And you know, I didn't know, thanks, Elizabeth. I didn't know when I first met Steve what a privilege it was, what a powerful place it was. You know, in the tradition from which I come, we have sacred spaces, and they are maintained very carefully, and they are very beautiful, clean, orderly spaces. And so this idea of creating sacred spaces is something that's beautiful. And one of the reasons that I love this book reading is because this book reading for me is a sacred space. It's a space that is curated. It's a space where, yeah, I get to talk about myself, but not, you know, we make sure that we keep it clean and orderly instead of just running the field. And I really want to acknowledge someone, and I'm not going to because I'm not allowed to.
Thank you.
And I love you. Thank you very much for those of you who make this, including myself, a sacred space.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, Miss Vanessa. Let's hear what you've got to say, sweetheart. Oh, you're mute.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the sharing. So, finishing reading this chapter, I thought about how it is related or connecting with myself, with my being. And then I hear from Fari that she says, who comes to my home? Who comes to my home? And I make to myself that question, who comes to my home? And my home is my office. My office is my heart. My office is my mind. My office is my being. So my office is sacred and a holy place. It's a place of pure creation. My office is a place that I have to respect and honor. It's not for dreaming, it's for creating. And I invite people with total clarity and a powerful commitment. I will do that. If I connect to my office, really, this message makes me tremble. If I connect to my office, I literally will create and sense the miracles. And then I got to the part where it talks about gifts, the gifts. And the gifts, I feel like there are all the things all the gifts that people that I met, like you all people that I'm hearing you, they are all the gifts that when I met someone, they also stay in my office. And they are unique and beautiful. No matter what is the story. Because like we talk in another chapter about good things or bad things, like everything is like experience to observe. So all the experience of people or whatever people experience, they are just like gifts that are unique and beautiful, and I have to value them. So that was what I want to share to you. That I stay with this question. Who comes to my home? Who comes to my office? And my heart, my being, is my office. Thank you.
That's beautiful. I love what you said. My office is my heart. And that's exactly when I said, I don't want people to come here that I'm being fussy about it, based on what Maya Angelou said, and Steve now is doing it, that when I wake up in the morning, I'm doing my 20 minutes meditation. I'm praying and I'm thanking God for this clean environment that I have, for the breath that I take, the oxygen that I have, the love that I have for my husband. I want it to be somebody that is coming in and having that value. How do I know that they all have that value that I have? And that's exactly what got me to be more specific after I read that chapter in the office, that it's a sacred space because it is my heart. And I don't want to get sick because somebody else's shortcoming. I want to be sick when I'm not right. And love what you said. My office is my heart. And that's exactly what I mean, except just not my office, my home. All of it, every part of it is sacred space for me. And it's important. And I so got that from hearing so much from Steve Hardison, being fussy about that. And I think it's a brilliant thing that I've learned from him. So thank you for sharing that. My precious Martha. Yes, ma'am. Martha is going to be my first guest in this house in January. We just came to this house 2 days ago. So
honored.
My heart and house and hubby were all open like this to take you to our house, Martha.
I hold you. I love this part. I love this about Steve. And I've seen it in a couple of other coaches where I've had the opportunity to go and sit with them in their space. And the energy they create by creating this beautiful space for the client is homecoming to me. And what I've learned from this chapter, and I've taken it into consideration, is the respect that he shows, that I see he shows for himself, which in turn he shows for the client that's before him, so that the space is so free for the creation of whatever is going to take place in that spot. And so I've taken that into consideration to light my candle, to set some flowers, to organize my space, even though it may be on Zoom. But it's creating that sacred space for myself, that container that will allow me to be fully present with my clients when I'm speaking from that perspective. There was a time when people didn't want to come to my home. And there was a time when I felt very sad that people didn't want to come to my home. And it wasn't until I so changed from the inside out for the respect and the loving that I have for myself that my home's energy completely changed. And in my own inside out opportunity, I began to look at my home differently and decorate it differently and feed the energy in the home differently, to the extent that the first time someone finally was invited and they came, someone that I knew very well, and the first time they had entered my home in a very long time, I remember her going, whoa, the energy here has so drastically changed. I feel at peace. I feel comfortable. I feel warm. I feel invited. So this chapter is poignant for me in reminding me that it's my energy, my intentionality that creates the invitation for another to either grow and expand or to share in my own joy, in my own home's joy. It's beautiful to see how Steve has supported us in that possibility. So I'm very grateful for this chapter. Thank you. I'm complete.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, ma'am. Teresa, we're always ears to hear yours.
Well, this is to me, this entire chapter is about preparation. When I prepare for an occasion, or when I prepare for someone to come to my home, or to come and meet with me, I usually literally do prepare. If you're going to have a meal to offer someone, or if you're just going to have a space to talk, depending on what the occasion would entail. And preparation in a business setting, such as coaching that a lot of you do, it should never be taken as a trite practice. And Stephen doesn't take it as a trite practice. His preparation actually frees the space. And I think that's what the spirit of preparation brings. When in the book, when it talks about it, it refers to it as power. It's a freeing sense. There's nothing there to clutter. And when you start with a person's footprints being the first footprints that are going into this sacred place, how could it be anything but sacred? It's been prepared for that. It's been prepared for you to host this individual that brings with them the most sacred things, the most sacred feelings, the most sacred troubles, the most sacred difficulties, the most sacred secrets that they have to share. But within it, the preparation for someone coming is that person also is invested in that. The assignments they're given before they show up there. It's not unlike what I expect of myself when I invite someone to come and to visit and to have a conversation with me. I've already prepared myself mentally that no matter what that situation would bring to me, I'm going to be on the higher ground. There's not going to be anything that happens with me and the individual that I have invited into my space. So that's personal preparation. This whole chapter, if there would be something that I take from this, it is the honor of the preparation for a person to come. What comes to my mind mostly is when I have been invited somewhere, and it's little things, but you pick up on those little things, like a person has bothered to find out what kind of soap you use, or there's a certain type of a texture in a towel, and they take you through the space that you're going to occupy, and they show you, this is here, this is provided for you. you know that it was personally thought out and sought out for you. And we do that in our personal life. Why would we not do that in our business life? There would seem like you wouldn't want to have that be separated. So why would you be less prepared? And so when you're saying you want to be selective about who comes, I think that you would want that mostly for that preparation for self to be selective. If you're prepared, there's not going to be anything that comes up that's going to disturb the peace of your office or anywhere else, because you're going to be the person that is conscious of keeping that peace present in that place. I have loved I love the times when I have interacted with Stephen myself. He's not just been prepared for others, he's prepared when we have a conversation. And I appreciate that about him, but I do understand the preparation factor that's involved here. And it is a sacred thing. You're giving when you're creating a space and you're asking yourself to be the best presence that another person can be with when they're bringing their full self to you. I've had people that I've had that experience with, and I know how intimate I then feel with that individual and how much more willing I am to share with them. And that's what I hope that is present for other people when I prepare to be with them. I may not have literally gotten down on my knees or something, but I always carry a prayer in my heart when I'm speaking or interacting with other people, that my conversation will represent who I am, and that I am not of any offense, and would be of no harm to someone, that all of the hearts, spirits, and minds are safe in my presence. So that's kind of a prayer that I have. That's my preparation before the book reading, before we have our planning sessions, before my children even come to my home. I pray that I will be the one that will be aware that if something needs to bend to keep the peace, that it be me. So that's this chapter to me is solely about preparation and the beauty that comes from being prepared.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I always love to hear your ideas and your opinion. It's so profound, and it is so specific that I always like, it makes me wonder after it and just think, she said this and that and that, and then I want to get better. I become a better person because of your comments. So I love you and I thank you.
You're kind of perfect just how you are.
Oh, I love you. Thank you. Hi, Wolfgang. Let's hear you, sir. What's present for you now?
Present for me is how amazing my wife is in that, in this home space. We have such a space, very, very few and very selected moments people come to our home. What I realized in the last years, since I was a lot on my own and in our home, before I connected to any people since before 5.5 years. And what I realized in these 5.5 years is I'm aware I'm in your living room. I'm aware I'm in your office now. First of all, I want to thank you. And there is two spaces I'm aware that I'm first of all in you're in my living, in my office, and next to it is my sleeping place. So I'm selective totally who I go on Zoom. And another space I'm very aware is what you just shared before, Pena, time. There is the even more sensitive space of creating or taking something is when somebody expands time over the agreement. And it happens, I'm used to these places. I used to have that years ago, when it becomes very, very intimate, and then suddenly we expand times to 2 or 3 or 4 times the times we thought of spending on it. So time is for me even a bigger space where people take, or even I feel honored somebody takes my time. So there is something what I give in order to actually get something. So time and Zoom space, I can see they're very easily expanded without being aware, actually. What actually is also something where I will leave now, because we already have an hour. I usually take 1 hour time for meetings, where I see this is also some space where I can be present. Everything that takes much longer, my presence then slips, or I can feel energy goes in. So time and Zoom space. So thank you for letting me be in your private, personal, most intimate space possibly. And this space here in the book read, but we do that in every Zoom call. I'm aware that I'm in people's living room, and I'm not aware if they are aware, but I am. I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. Yay. Artania. Yes, darling.
Thank you, Vadi. Thank you.
Thank you, my love.
So I love this chapter. What I really love about this chapter is to have even experienced my growth through the past 2 years of this chapter, because my home was under construction repair for the past 5 years. So it was completely upside down. There was no real sacred space when my home was under construction. So reading this chapter for the first time and really being with, wow, I don't have a sacred space. My office shifted daily, and most of the time I shifted outside, because inside there were jackhammers going on, and it was not a conducive environment for me to work from or for me to be in. And so I really created the ability, even for myself, to create a sacred space wherever I was. And so what did that look like for me to sacredly prepare myself to be in a sacred space, no matter where I was? So if I was outside in nature, then that was my sacred space. And so to be able to be flexible in my own sacred space. But within the past 2 years of growing and through the construction, to really be with, okay, if that's what I want to create, then let me create it. And if it was so overwhelming because there was so much to do through that construction, then just to give myself permission to do a small space at a time, to just clean one space at a time, to prepare one space at a time, because it was overwhelming. There were so many spaces to prepare that it was overwhelming. Vadi, you can maybe understand what and relate to this, being that you are in the process of moving, that everything's everywhere. And so there's no real order to anything. And so I love the fact that this chapter kind of encouraged me to really think about, how do I want to create a sacred space for myself? I recognized I created sacred spaces for others in my home, but not really so much for myself as well, because I was used to being kind of a little flexible. And actually, I preferred going outside. That is a very sacred space for me. I really connect in nature, and I love coaching in nature. I love being in nature. So I found that was really my sacred space. It didn't have to look like Steve's sacred space. My sacred space could be wherever I felt it was sacred. And so I really love to just acknowledge myself in the realization that I created different sacred spaces for me by creating my own sacred preparation. Kind of like what we do even for our planning calls or prior to this call, where we all meet together and we create a sacred preparation prior to getting started. And that's very special. And we do that because of the influence of this chapter. I don't know if any Team Tuck realizes that, but that is very much influenced by this chapter, that preparation. I love just the thought of how he prepares himself prior to his clients, prior to being with his clients. He's very thoughtful in the little things before his clients. He prepares the flag. He'll prepare certain things. Yes, he wears maybe flip-flops and shorts on a lot of different times, but oftentimes he'll wear, depending on who is with him, he'll wear an Indian outfit, or he'll wear a kilt, or he'll wear a cuffling, or he'll just do little sacred things that mean something to the person he's getting ready to meet with. And so I think about, again, the transition that I've gone through, having 4 children and kids coming in and out, and things kind of going from really neat to not being so neat. But how I do prepare, and how I prepare even for like my husband when he's out of town, and then prior to him coming to town, coming back, how like I'll sacredly prepare the home, and how he recognizes when I don't. So how important it is for him too to have the home nice and tidied and sacred. So in certain areas where maybe I was a little lax on that, it has created awareness for me that I would like it to be better. And without particularly judgment, but really just the awareness of, okay, well, actually, I would like that to be different too. So what do I want to do to create it different? And just create it, rather than being like, oh, well, I don't have that, or I would like it to be better, and then beat myself up for it. So I think in this moment, I'm just kind of acknowledging myself for the processes that I've been through in the past 2 years, through this awareness and the creation of creating my home from being completely upside down to being a little bit more in order and sacred. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, I love the idea of having that sacred space. I love the idea of keeping your home or your office, whatever that you feel like, keeping it as the sacred space. Like nothing will make me change my mind about being fussy about who gets to be in my house. Just like when he prepares just before I came here, I'm burning sage. In my office, I want to talk on the Zoom, but I burn sage. I have a meditation. Even if it's 2 minutes, I have a meditation. It's just this creation of being at the present and becoming at the present moment, creating that space of a sacredness that it makes it so much more tangible, and it makes it more, to me, holy. So I totally get what you're saying, my love. Wolfgang, are you have a hand up? Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
That was the reason why I waved before. I wanted to say something more. That's the reason why I stayed.
I am sorry, I didn't notice that. I apologize.
That's okay. That's the reason why I stayed on. Fari, you said something before very intentionally, that you said Martha is the first person who will visit you. And what I said before, I just want to point out, we are the first ones who visit you already. And having that
I'm talking
said,
about physically being here and spending the night here. That's what
yeah, yeah. Having that said, something crossed my mind. If anything came across in my mind where was negativity or judgment over any book readings, which I might have implemented in your room, being here, I'm aware and I'm sorry.
No problem, but I don't, no worries. It's wonderful that you are here and you're you're enjoying it. Obviously, that's why you're here, and I'm glad and I'm hoping that you are enjoying it. And that's all that matters. It's just a matter of sharing, growing, learning, and being with each other, basically. It's not my space, it's our space. But thank you for saying that. Anybody else would like to share before I pass it on? Of course, there is a after party. Oh, Renate, would you like to share?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, this is a whole different perspective. Like on the second thought, reading this chapter, you can read it from the surface, just preparing a room. But I realized it was the first thing I wrote down as a notice, that it is utterly important to prepare at all times to be fully present in every situation. And I realized that I really need to do more of that. And I also realized I need to do a whole makeover of my home. So thank you for all your sharing. From everybody, I took little bits and pieces and got work to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's always lovely to hear from you as well. Yes, so another wonderful night of reading, learning, and growing. And I just don't hope, I know that we continue having the book readings and learning from each other. It's a fabulous space to be in, a fabulous place to be. And I am so glad that we all came here and we all did our sharing. And to go on for the rest of it, I am going to pass it on. Is that Tom to be the mod 3, my dear? I'd love you to take over. And I thank you all for being here so far. And I let Tom to close it out for us. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Thank you, Fari. So you said sharing, growing, learning, and I'm adding loving to it. And Vanessa, I see you there. I mean, you said something that was so amazing for me, that my office is my heart. So I want to acknowledge that. And then Teresa talking about preparation. Tanya talking about preparation. Wolfgang, sacred space and sacred time. Such beautiful additions to our book reading today. So thank you for that. I'd like to acknowledge, we had 4 readers tonight, and 3 of them, it's their first time here. So Katina, is Katina still here? Yes. I know Wendy had to leave. Bina is still here. I see you, and it was your first time. We love that you came here tonight and read for us, and we hope that we'll see you regularly. And then I have a friend, Kelly Lawrence, in the corner, at least in my corner, and this is Kelly's first time here too. So we had a lot of first timers tonight. So would like to acknowledge our readers, Carrie Rickabaugh and Bina Bendale, for reading that reading the chapter on The Office, sharing that duty. And Katina and Wendy, who's gone, thank you so much for being our first two readers. I'd like to also acknowledge Ken for his beautiful getting the plane in the air, and Fari for keeping the plane in the air. And now I get to land the plane, right? So thank you, you two, for doing such a great job. And then I have to always acknowledge my Team Tuck, Tanya as our leader, and then we have a bunch of other leaders. So it's not like we're followers. Tanya creates leaders. So thank you, Team Tuck. So our next reading will be Sunday, December 3rd. Yes, it's December, and it'll be 10 a.m. Eastern time. And we will have the honor of Kasudi reading chapter 23. Fasten your seatbelt. So that's must see Zoom TV. So we hope you can make it for that. Thank you to everyone who's in the room right now, and some had to leave, and there's going to be a bunch of people watching or viewing the recording. So thank you too for being a part of this. I've got some important reminders to share before we close. And the first one is that the second anniversary commemorating the first Ultimate Coach experience, which I went to, and so did Shauna, and I think a whole bunch of other people, but Shauna went with me and a couple other friends, was held in Phoenix. And this one will be in Scottsdale, Arizona on the 26th and 27th of January. If you've not purchased your tickets and are interested in more information on attending, please type yes in the chat. If you're watching this on video, reach out to one of Team Tuck members, and we will get you the information that you need. We'll also post, I think Tanya's posting it right now, the registration link in the chat. And then just a reminder too, that all event proceeds will be donated to an organization. I'm not sure of the name, but I know they work very hard to prevent child sex trafficking, which, you know, I hate to even have to say that that's a thing, but this organization will be reaping the benefits of all the proceeds from this event. We also have an event called 2B24. It's the Ultimate Birmingham Experience. It'll be in the United Kingdom in the city of Birmingham, England, on May 25th and 26th. And all event proceeds from the Ultimate Birmingham Experience will be donated to the Cochlear Hospital, which provides hearing support for children suffering from hearing loss. And I believe there's a chat link about registering for that event. And again, if you'd like more information, just put it in the chat, reach out to a Team Tuck member. We also have something new to announce, a new offering beginning this Friday. It's called the Ultimate Coach Friday Live Series, where you'll be able to experience live conversations with previous guests of the Ultimate Coach podcast. You can join that series via the Ultimate Coach Facebook page. And we will, there'll be visual promotions going out. I believe they're out now, but we will let you know the times. The times will change occasionally for that. So you're going to have to pay attention a little bit to those promotions to find out when to show up to the Ultimate Coach Facebook page to be a part of the Friday Live series. Lastly, the Ultimate Coach Facebook group has additional resources to access and support you on your being journey. And they are, in no particular order, the Ultimate Coach YouTube channel, the Ultimate Coach podcast, the Ultimate Coach on Instagram, the Ultimate Coach LinkedIn group, and the Ultimate Coach Weekly Being Digest newsletter with which comes via email. You register for that, and you'll start getting that in your email. And then we also have the ultimatecoachextras.com, where there is so much more to view, learn, read about you, watch about you that just didn't make it into the book, but there's some amazing content there. If you'd like more information on any resource I just mentioned, please type it in the chat, reach out to a Team Tuck member. We will make sure you get that. We will follow through on that. Lastly, Team Tuck, we invite you to join us for the book reading after, we call it the book reading afterglow, for more sharing immediately following this reading, like in 1 minute probably. So the afterglow begins right after we're done here, and we will not be live streaming and we won't be recording video in the afterglow. So I want to invite everyone now and to unmute yourselves and to wish everyone a good morning, a good night, a good afternoon, a good day. And thank you for being here. Goodbye.
Have a good
Bye,
night.
bye, everyone.
And it's good to see you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good yourselves.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Vanessa.
Blessings.
Vanessa.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Carrie.
everybody.
Bye, Wolfgang.
Bye, all.